around the world. I'm Jonathan Evans.
And I'm Ashley Thomas.
This is VOA News via remote. I'm Alka. The world remains on edge as tensions increase on the Ukraine-Russian border. The West is demanding that Russia pull its 100,000 troops and weapons from the Ukraine border, while Moscow is pushing for NATO to curtail its operations in Eastern and Central Europe. Russia also insists that the Western Defensive Alliance reject Ukraine's membership bid, a move the United States calls a non-starter. The U.S. chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff said Friday that Russia would blaze a path of death and destruction for all sides if it invades Ukraine. Given the types of forces that are arrayed, if that was unleashed on Ukraine, it would be significant. That according to General Mark Milley. Meanwhile, the deputy chairman of Russia's lower house in parliament issued an appeal Saturday to residents who live in parts of Ukraine controlled by Russian-backed rebels to enlist in the Russian armed forces. Viktor Vodolotsky told Russia's state-run TASS news agency that residents of those regions fear attacks by Ukrainian forces and said Russia's military would welcome those with Russian passports. About 50 people were sentenced to death in Democratic Republic of Congo on Saturday in connection with the murders of UN experts Zaida Catalan and Michael Sharp in 2017. That's according to a human rights group tracking the trial. Thomas Fessy of the Human Rights Watch's senior researcher on Congo says a local immigration official was among those given death sentences, while an army colonel was given 10 years in prison. Congo has observed a moratorium on the death penalty since 2003, so those convicted will serve life sentences. This is VOA News. Thousands of protesters gathered in Canada's capital to protest vaccine mandates, masks, and lockdowns. The sound of honking horns echoed around Ottawa's downtown Saturday. A convoy of truckers and others prompted police to prepare for the possibility of violence and government to warn against escalating rhetoric linked to the demonstration. A top Parliament security official advised lawmakers to lock their doors amid reports their private homes may be targeted. A funeral has been held for a renowned Buddhist monk and peace activist who died at the age of 95 in Vietnam. AP correspondent Karen Chamas reports.
Monks chanted in prayer as many Vietnamese lined the streets to show respect to Thich Nhat Hanh. Thousands of monks and disciples trailed a procession of pallbearers carrying Nhat Hanh's coffin from where he spent his final days to the cremation sites. Others kneeled and clasped their hands in prayer on the roadside and bowed to the ground as the casket went past. The popular Zen master was well known for his digestible Buddhist teachings on compassion and suffering during his lifetime dedicated to working for peace. He lived in exile in southern France for most of his life after being expelled from his country for campaigning against the Vietnam War. He was only allowed back into the country in 2005 when the communist-ruled government welcomed him back in the first of several visits. I'm Karen Chamas.
It has been nearly 1 year since the army takeover in Myanmar that ousted the elected government of Aung San Suu Kyi and unexpectedly aborted the ongoing restoration of representative democracy in the Southeast Asian country after decades of military rule. But at least as surprising has been the level of popular resistance to the seizure of power, which has blossomed into a low-level but persistent insurgency. Senior General Min Aung Hlaing, the commander of Myanmar's military, seized power on the morning of February 1st, 2021, arresting Suu Kyi and top members of her government and ruling National League for Democracy Party, which had won a landslide victory in November 2020. The deputy head of Sudan's military-led Sovereign Council said on Saturday that a UN envoy should be working as a facilitator and not as a mediator. That statement signaling an apparent tougher line toward international efforts to resolve a political crisis. A United Nations mission led by a special envoy began talks this month to help resolve the standoff, which followed a coup last year. Via remote, I'm Liz Palka, VOA News.